until he heard the voice. On this particular day, Cherry Hall was completely empty. Except for Rami, of course. It was Monday afternoon, which meant the museum was closed. And the cleaning crew, which his mother oversaw, had already done their full mop and sweep of the room. The walls had been wiped down and the frames had been dusted. Everything was sparkling. Even the empty space on the wall where the painting that had been stolen had once hung. The stolen painting was called Untitled. Literally, that was its name. Its name was its lack of name. Rami thought everything might have been easier if the stolen painting had a proper name. While he stared at the mysterious marks on the wall, he thought about the missing painting's lack of a name. He tried to come up with a title for it, but he couldn't think of anything good. It was then that he heard the voice. At first, he stayed very still. But then he heard it again. This prompted him to stand up from the bench where he had been sitting. He looked over his shoulder. He didn't see anyone. He looked to the side. He still didn't see anyone. He was convinced that he was alone. He wasn't alone, but he would figure that out soon enough. Rami moved closer to the wall. He reached out instinctively and then quickly withdrew his hand, remembering the paramount rule of art museums: no touching. This was a rule his mother had reminded him of over and over again. "We're lucky they let me bring you to work," she'd said. "But you need to behave. Be quiet. And absolutely do not, under any circumstances, touch anything." Rami had thought it would be a whole lot luckier if he was allowed to stay at home, by himself, like all the almost 12-year-olds that he knew. But his mother was a worrier. When he asked her about it, she would say, "You can't blame me for being a worrier. I was born in a war zone." "Maple Lake isn't a war zone," Rami would answer. "That's why your father and I came here," Rami's mom inevitably would reply. "Because we wanted you to have a better life in a safe place." "Maple Lake is safe," Rami would say. The conversation always had this circular nature. His mother explaining that they came to Maple Lake because it was safe, Rami agreeing that Maple Lake was safe, and then Rami asking to stay home alone because of the aforementioned safeness. But he never got anywhere. Which was why he was here on this particular afternoon, in Cherry Hall, in the Penelope L. Brooks Museum, which everyone in Maple Lake simply referred to as the Penelope. No one in Maple Lake had cared much about the Penelope, until 2 weeks ago, when the painting went missing. Now the Penelope was all anyone wanted to talk about. "Hello?" Rami heard the voice say. The voice was quiet at first, scarcely audible. Rami spun around. He still didn't see anything. Not yet. But he was getting closer. "Hello?" the voice said again. He glanced back at the wall. And it was there, on the wall, that he first saw her shadow. This time, when he turned around, he saw a girl. 3. The Floating Girl. The girl was probably around his age, maybe a little younger, maybe a little older. It was hard to tell. Rami straightened his spine. If she was trying to determine his age, he wanted her to guess on the older side. He pushed his curly dark hair away from his face. He put on his most adult-looking expression. "Hello?" the girl said a third time. "Can you see me?" She was pale white with a freckled face and long, thick, dark brown hair that almost reached her waist. Her hair had that static shock quality, puffing out around her like it was raising its hand, waiting to be called on. She had big green eyes that blinked rapidly, and was wearing a blue dress that seemed like something someone would wear in summer instead of winter.